Am I wrong for refusing to sleep with my wife's sister?
What is this? What is this?
This definitely has to do with baby making, I already know. So I, male 32, think this isn't controversial at all, but my wife's 31 female, family, and even some of my friends think that I'm making a big deal out of it. My wife has PCOS, which doesn't make it impossible, but very difficult for us to conceive a child. We've been trying for 3 years and it hasn't worked out. In addition to the traditional way, we've tried IVF and at one point had a family member who offered to have a baby for us with their spouse. Sadly for us, they backed out when the baby was born. We get how difficult giving up your own child would be, and so while me and my wife were obviously devastated, we understood and couldn't blame them. However, since our near miss, my wife has been getting more intense about having a child, which has led her to recently asking me that I do it the natural way with her sister. I think she's just really high on emotions right now, and she just sounds really frustrated and desperate and emotionally exhausted. To be perfectly clear, we have the money to do another round of IVF, but my wife thinks it won't work again and will just be throwing money down the drain. This was a huge shock for me for obvious reasons, and while I get that it's probably the most probable way for us to have a genetically related child, it just seems the wrong way to do it. Not only does it feel like cheating, despite her permission and stepping over a line, my wife also grew up quite envious of her sister, who was the typical popular girl, and part of me thinks that even if I'm willing to, my wife would end up resenting me, her sister, and maybe even the child. My wife's sister is apparently completely understanding of our situation and is on board with the idea, which honestly weirds me out even more. I also don't believe it. I have asked her about how she feels myself, and every time she dodges the question by saying something along the lines of, "I just want my sister to be happy." To me, that's a major red flag, and I've asked my wife if her sister feels like she's being pressured to the idea. To me, that's a major red flag, and I've asked my wife if her sister feels like she's being pressured into the idea. But my wife keeps telling me that her sister knows what she's doing and would totally say no if she genuinely didn't want to go through with the plan. I've made it clear that I don't want to have a child this way, which has upset my wife a lot. She said that I'm punishing her for her medical issues simply because I can't get over myself. Her mother and father are very, logical, should I say. They think it is definitely out there as a solution, but get that it's a practical one for a complicated situation. Some of my friends even think that I'm being a baby about it, joking that there will be many men who would jump at this opportunity. The thing is, I get the rational reasons for doing this, and my reluctance at the end of the day is based on the feeling of it just being wrong and not being good in the long term for any of our family relationships. Am I just being stubborn and childish about a sticky situation? I don't think so. This is just overall really weird, and I get your point for not wanting to do it because it's weird. Am I wrong for telling my best friend that he is lonely because his hygiene is disgusting? My 24 female, best friend 26 male of 12 years is a great person with many desirable traits. He's educated and has a good career, and I'm really proud of him for his accomplishments. Since we were kids, I've always noticed he had really bad hygiene habits, but chalked it up to him being a teenage boy. Now that we're older, I've seen that his hygiene has not improved with age. He goes to the gym at least 3 times per week, but never showers more than once per week. Never brushes his teeth and only does laundry when the clothes are completely stiff. I've dropped little hints like if we stay the night somewhere together, I'll ask if he packs shower supplies, and in the mornings I'll offer to leave my toothpaste out if he wants to use it. I found myself no longer inviting him places because it's embarrassing when he shows up greasy, smelly, and with an inch thick of plaque on his teeth. I'm sorry, 26 is way, way too old to not have good hygiene. I don't know if I should blame him or his parents for not teaching him. No, you can't, at this age, you can't blame anyone else besides yourself because you're a grown ass man and you gotta take accountability. Last month, he told me he had a crush on one of my newer friends and asked if she was single. I told him that she was, but only recently single and isn't looking for anything right now. He wouldn't take no for an answer and decided to contact her himself to ask her out. When she declined, she lied and said she was seeing someone. He knew that one of us was lying to him. When he confronted me, I told him that everyone I know thinks he is disgusting because of his hygiene. They don't want to be near him, much less date him. He denied having bad hygiene and said he does shower and brush his teeth. He left and hasn't talked to me in over a month, insisting I need to apologize and set the record straight to everyone we know. I think I'm doing him a favor in the long run, and he should appreciate my honesty because he's the one who confronted me about why I lied to him about my friend. So, am I the asshole?
I, female 27, have been married to my wonderful husband, male 30, for 5 years, but we've been together for 7 years total. In all that time, my parents, female 58 and male 60, have never really taken a shining to him, but everyone has always been amicable. That is, everyone except my sister, female 22, who seems to think that the world revolves around her. She is the light of my parents' lives, and can do absolutely no wrong in their eyes. Simply put, my husband and I generally keep our distance from her. Last weekend was my dad's 60th birthday, and everyone was invited. My husband and I went knowing that my sister would be there, but we didn't think too much of it. We expected a pleasant evening celebrating my dad. Now it's important to note before we go further that my husband follows certain dietary restrictions as part of his religion, which I'm keeping vague, but everyone in the family knows and has been accommodating thus far. Unfortunately, after everyone had eaten dinner, my sister announced that she had specifically asked the caterers to add in some of the restricted food items so that she could test if my husband would even know the difference. To say the least, I was furious. Just for clarification purposes, the restricted ingredients were added into the sauces and there were no noticeable pieces. My husband and I were absolutely appalled and just walked out while my sister yelled that she didn't get the big deal and we need to take the sticks out of our butts. My parents had absolutely nothing to say and just watched. They later texted me that I should consider the fact that my sister is young and didn't know better. I did not respond. I went absolutely no contact with everyone since the party and didn't respond to a single message or phone call, nor did my husband. When my parents showed up at the house, we didn't open the door. When they showed up at my work, I didn't go to reception. I haven't laid eyes on them at all. Today, some cops came knocking on my door saying that they had received a missing persons report and were looking for me. Fortunately, that was all solved quickly in that I never actually went missing. But now my friends are saying that I wasted police resources when I could have just texted my parents back saying that I didn't want to hear from them. I just feel like a grown woman should not have to justify where she is to her parents. So, am I in the wrong for disappearing and causing my parents to lodge a missing persons report?
New insults just dropped. Somebody asked me yesterday if I knew who Beyonce was, and I have never unraveled faster. I thought they were messing with me at first. I was like, to be clear, you're asking me if I know who Beyonce is, right? She said, yeah. And I was like, okay, that's the meanest thing anyone's ever said to me, because immediately my brain was like, why would she ask me that? Does she think I'm a loser? Does she think that I'm old? Does she think that I'm the blandest white person she's ever met in her whole life? Because to me, the statement, do you know who Beyonce is, directly translates to, you have the aura of a bowl of porridge. So I started to feel very defensive. I was like, do I know? Of course I know Beyonce. I was listening to Beyonce before she was Beyonce. I was listening to Beyonce on hit clips. I was listening to Beyonce before you were born. And then I thought, maybe this isn't a me problem. Maybe yous today just don't know who Beyonce is. Maybe that's a thing, but that doesn't make sense also. Because not knowing who Beyonce is like not knowing who Santa Claus is, or Obama, or Taylor Swift. I wouldn't ask somebody if they knew who Taylor Swift was unless they were 102 years old or recently rescued from an underground bunker. Then my brain did a very turning into my mom type thing where it thought, I'm not the problem. She's not the problem. Her friends are the problem. And I was like, sweetie, who are you hanging out with? Who makes you feel like you need to ask this question? Are you just casually hanging out with people who don't know who Beyonce is? Because you should not do that anymore. Those are not good friends.
Am I the asshole for telling my husband he exaggerated when he said my kids ruined his daughter's birthday? Last week was my stepdaughter's 14th birthday, and she was in the hospital days prior for a medical issue. And now that she's better, my husband threw her a small birthday party. Unfortunately, my sons, 16 and 12, decided to pull a funny prank and mess with the birthday cake. When they made the cake for her, instead of adding icing on the cake, they added mayonnaise. Yuck. Let's just say it didn't go so well, and my stepdaughter's reaction was to cry. As a result, my husband absolutely blew up on the boys. They said it was just a prank. Am I the asshole for telling my husband he exaggerated when he said my kids ruined his daughter's birthday? So once again, my boys decided to make my stepdaughter a cake, but instead of icing, made it with mayonnaise. My husband blew up at the boys for what they did, but they said it was just a prank and it's the new norm, and that they always prank each other. My husband said it was the wrong time to do this on her birthday, especially after getting out of the hospital. He told the boys they ruined her birthday, but I said that was an exaggeration. He then got upset and yelled at me for defending their behavior. I don't think I'm an enabler, as he says, because the boys do love her and that's why they act like this.
I left my boyfriend after he tried to propose. I, female 20, and my boyfriend, male 27, have been together for about a year and 3 months. From the beginning, he has always talked about marriage and kids. I want kids and that stuff too, but definitely later in life. We would often be lying in bed and he would just say, I can't wait to do this when we're married. Personally, I don't really get it. Like, what's going to change from now when we're dating to when we're married? Our relationship will still be the same one we started with. He often would just ask me casually to marry him, and I would always just answer something along the lines of, someday. He's asked me about every month for about a year, and I always answer the same. I'm very busy and I travel for an intern job for work, so I don't really see myself settling down within the next few years. For those of you thinking that I'm leading him on, I am very open with these plans. I told him that I don't even want to get engaged until I'm at least 25 and want kids late 20s to early 30s. That's just a personal boundary and preference. Whenever I would answer seriously, he would always shut down, get quiet, and look upset. If you're wondering about our age gap, I know. We met at a work party when I was 18. We're in the same field and have the same close group of friends. He never gave me creepy or ill intentions, and the only issue we seem to have is marriage and kids. The last time he casually asked, we were on the beach about a month ago, and once again I just said, I'm not ready right now. Fast forward to 2 days ago, he proposed to me for real. He took me to the mountain with a waterfall and actually got down on one knee with a ring. I didn't even look at the ring before I said no. It was like a reflex. I started walking away and crying out of shock. I knew this was the end for us. I couldn't see myself getting back together with someone who just doesn't listen to me. He started crying and begging, blah blah blah. I told him that I needed time. I flew home to my family and told him what happened. Turns out he told my family and they said that he shouldn't do it. He ignored them, never told them he was going through with it, and didn't bother to invite them to the party that he had planned after. Later found out his whole family was there. Honestly, feel great. I texted him that we're done and that the line was crossed. Unfortunately, I have to see him at work, but I don't even feel an ounce of sadness. More like relief, and I'm not totally sure why. But I'm just wondering, did I do the right thing by saying no?